We're here at Copperstate in Casa Grande, Arizona, about an hour south of Phoenix, at the air show in its 43rd running. This is a popular air show for sporting aircraft. As we look around here beyond the camera's view, it's all kind of aircraft right in our normal space of reporting. I'm Dan Johnson, and I'm standing in front of AirCam. It's a little history about AirCam. This airplane was developed originally when Phil Lockwood, the principal behind the company, it's called Lockwood Aircraft, he was approached by National Geographic magazine, the people that do all that wonderful photography that we've seen. They also do video stuff in these modern days. And when they went looking for aircraft to use for an African shoot, they went, you know, we have a problem here. We want to fly low over places with almost no place to land anywhere. And what they eventually made for a landing place was a little 600-foot strip, very difficult to carve out of the woods. It's not a place you'd want to land any aircraft, and certainly not one big enough to do the job they needed. So Phil Lockwood really thought long and hard about that and decided that in those days we were flying ultralight aircraft, which they kind of needed for their purposes. They wanted something that flew slowly. They didn't want to spend all the huge money for a helicopter, which still wouldn't be safe in those environments. And so he used two 582 engines on an aircraft that looked very much like the one we're standing in front of now. There were differences, and I'll talk about those a little bit. But those two 582 engines, 65 horsepower each, so gave 130 horsepower. The aircraft was capable of flying on either one of them, but eventually that changed somewhat. Anyway, that did the job for the folks, and they were able to go over there and shoot their video, and that kind of put AirCam on the map. Now, it wasn't intended to be a product that he was going to manufacture more and more of. It was one purpose-built for a job and for some of his own interests in photography, at which he's quite good. So now that we leap forward in time a little bit, the Rotax 912 came out. It was an obvious choice for this aircraft, and indeed the aircraft we're standing in front of now has twin 912s on it, now producing 100 horsepower, so that makes 200 horsepower for this airframe. And let me tell you, when you move both throttles forward, this airplane just pushes you back in the seat. It's like driving a hot rod automobile, a Corvette, a Cobra, something like that. Shoves you back in the seat, and you know you're going up and fast. Indeed, the ground roll is, I don't know what it is in seconds, but it's not very many, and the distance is extremely short. Bring the tail wheel up, and almost as soon as you do, the aircraft's ready to fly. It's made to fly at slower speed, so it gets off the runway very quickly. What changed about the aircraft here, I'm going to pan back a little bit, and I want to look at this. It kind of looks like half a fuselage to me. That is, there's not the whole top part. The beauty of this airplane is its open cockpit. That's for those of us that like that sort of thing. Think about a photographer sitting up here in this front seat and shooting. They can see everything. You're literally about 6 feet in front of the wing in the forward seat. So they would have a qualified commercial pilot flying the aft seat, and their cameraman would sit up here, of course not flying, and doing the photography that they needed. The whole reason for this extra fuselage that I wanted to show you here, the early one was similar in the front, but then had a tail boom to the rear. And what happened, even though they used a great big, maybe 6 or 8 inch tail boom, the tail tended to move a little bit and transmitted all the way back on this long airplane up to the front. That made the front kind of move a little bit, and it affected the photography, the quality of it. So Phil went back, spent a lot of effort redesigning this, what I call a half fuselage, which also, for those that are kind of concerned about being in an open cockpit aircraft, from about your elbows down, you're inside the airplane, and it's got a very comfortable, solid feel to it, and all that shake kind of went away. It has a great big tail on the back, and in my opinion, you can't have too tall a vertical stabilizer because it makes the airplane fly very nicely. Phil Lockwood agrees with that, and indeed, this airplane is a beautiful flying machine, even at about 35 miles an hour, maybe a few miles an hour faster than that. Flaps down, it's very controllable, you're just drifting over the ground, and if you're doing photography, of course, that's beautiful, but it's just plain fun, too. So the modern aircraft now, 2 Rotax 912s, and they even have some with 914s. That's 230 horsepower on a fairly light aircraft, I believe in the area of 1,600 pounds gross weight. It's a tail dragger twin, as you see, and look where the main gear are. I'm going to move back here to the main gear. That is about 4 feet aft of the front seat. So when you're flying the machine, it's quite unique to fly in many ways. Taxiing is very good on it. It has a full breakaway tail wheel on it. And differential braking. So if you lean, if you steer hard with the rudder pedal and then add brake, and you can add differential throttle, boost the left engine more than the right engine, retard the right engine, use full right rudder and use right brake, you can spin this thing around. It'll just sit on one landing gear and turn around in a circle. And it is a highly maneuverable airplane. You could turn it around on any ramp I've ever seen. Yet at the same time, with that big tail and with the main long fuselage that it's got, it tracks very well on the ground. You're not having to turn around back and forth. And of course, visibility, one of the key elements of this aircraft. You can see over the nose easily. You don't have to do any fishtailing while taxiing. You got full visibility pretty much in every direction. Up, down, forward, and even back you can see very well. Now, countering some of those wonderful qualities I just espoused about the airplane, and I do love this airplane. It's one of my all-time favorites. I'll admit that right away. There's hardly any other airplane quite like it. So those are all good things. Glowing remarks about the AirCam. No aircraft is perfect, however, and indeed, let me tick off a few of the things that might make it not your airplane. First of all, you've got to build it. This is experimental, amateur built only. There is no fully built kit. It's a twin-engine airplane. Today, FAA is going to want you to go out and get a multi-engine rating. I have one. I got it in this airplane, as a matter of fact. And it specifies that it's a day VFR aircraft for my use in it because I didn't go through the instrument part with it. And you wouldn't use this aircraft in instrument flying conditions anyway. But it's a twin-engine tail dragger. Now, for some people, that's 2 marks against it right there. Most people don't have twin-engine time. Most people don't have tail dragger time. You can get by both of those things easily because the 2 engines are so close together that they have very little what's called asymmetrical thrust. The thing you use on the ground to maneuver tightly can cause you problems in the air with a conventional twin with the engines on the front of the wings, and they're usually outboard a little bit further than these are. If you lose one engine, that side, the dead side pulls back, the strong side is going forward, and when you lose an engine in those airplanes, you both throttles all the way to the front, because you don't know initially which engine it is you may have lost. And that right engine, in my analogy here, will pull forward. You've got a jam right rudder, and you've got full power, and you're probably not climbing. So you are looking for a landing right away. Forget all that with the AirCam. In the AirCam, we pulled back on an engine, and I've done it on my own as well. You can hardly tell the difference. There's some yawing motion, but it's not significant. And you use, of course, some rudder to offset that. You don't really have to add in full power on the other engine, although you would if you lost an engine, because that's proper procedure in a twin-engine aircraft. But when you do, the yaw effect isn't that pronounced. You've still got very good control, and you're climbing. You can actually climb about 300 feet a minute in the AirCam with only one engine. You can literally taxi it around with one engine. You can literally take off on one engine. You wouldn't do that normally, but it is possible. And you can climb at 300 feet a minute, at least at lower elevations. So a lot, again, to be said good about it. Building the airplane, going to take you some hours. I don't have an exact count on it, and it doesn't really matter the exact number because it depends on your experience. But it's a fairly complex aircraft to build, and it's going to take you a while, and you've got to install and buy 2 engines, not just one. So the Rotax engines today, you've got a pretty good investment in engines. You can check those prices for yourself and find out. But the kit runs north of 6 figures. This is a kit for more than 6 figures. Now, for what it is, that's not a high price at all. For a twin-engine airplane, that's not bad. But for those that are working on a budget, well, 6 figures and then some, and you've got to build it, that's just not going to work for some people. I'd like to be a partner in one of these things because that's a way I could afford it, and you might have to say something similar. There are many people, in fact 200 of them, who said, nope, I can do that, and I love that, and I want one, and they are selling these things quite briskly today, even with the build effort. Of course, there's builder assists of various kinds, so they can help you if you're not qualified to do that kind of work, but it is one of the requirements of the aircraft. And seating comfort is excellent. The seats are very comfortable to be in, and up front with this windscreen, and they've got a couple different sizes of windscreen, there is a significant bubble here. You could literally, I don't know, light a match or something. It's so wind-free in the front. In the back, however, even with these little wings they've got on here, it's pretty windy back there. You get buffeted some. For those that Yeah, I've taken passengers with me. They didn't even hardly notice. They were having a great time. If you flew a long distance, you would definitely get some fatigue from sitting in the back seat and being buffeted by the wind. So for those folks, Lockwood Aircraft has worked for some years to make a full enclosure, one where the canopy opens clamshell style, and and a door system in the back, so you can be in the aft seat and have no wind whatsoever. If you're flying in a colder climate, while it's not windy up here, it would be cool up here. So you're better off, if that's your environment, if you're flying in Alaska, let's say, you'd want the full enclosure, and they do have that now all worked out in this aircraft. You notice there's a lot of room back here, and from my view I can see there's a whole metal floor down there. The whole fuselage is metal, and they made this back here so that when it was being operated in Africa or some of those really remote locations, they have carried literally a 55-gallon barrel of fuel back there. So it will hold as much as 300 pounds back there. Now, if you had fuel back there, obviously you'd have to be very careful about loading and so forth. And anything you put back there, you're going to want to tie down and secure. But they do have a tonneau cover, word that comes from sports cars, where with the top down, you have a partial cover over it. Well, you use a tonneau cover back here, and then things back there don't get wet or wind blown or whatever. But you can carry a lot back there, and I have even seen one that had 3 seats in here, and the aircraft worked quite well. As a matter of fact, that aircraft was on amphibious floats as well. So this aircraft is available on floats. Then it's no longer a tail dragger, of course. I don't know of one on straight floats, but it's a home-built aircraft. You could certainly make it that way if you were flying in an all-water environment. And this aircraft on the water is another joy to fly, because it gets off the water very quickly. I don't have the number of seconds at the tip of my tongue, but it's fast. Even with 3 seats. I didn't fly it with 3 seats, but I saw it. I flew in one that had 3 seats in it, and the pilot of that aircraft said it'll do 3 people in there, no problem at all. Obviously, if you could carry 300 pounds back there, carrying another person back there is not a problem either. Weight and balance is always an issue. Do it carefully. So I mentioned that the fuselage is all metal. That's true. All riveted construction. The wings, however, are a little different. They use metal streamlined struts, but the wing is not dope in fabric. It's painted, yes, but this is a Dacron, sewn Dacron. Sometimes it's called a sail, sometimes it's called an envelope. These slip on, and then ribs are inserted into pockets, and these are all pockets that are sewn into the wing. You slide the proper curve shape in the top, on the bottom, and the same thing on the top, creates your airflow. Now, once it's painted, this is going to last a very long time. But if you had damage to it or something like that, I won't call it simple, but it's definitely a situation where you could pull on a new wing just on one side. So there's a lot of variabilities that you can use with working with the AirCam. It's a home-built aircraft, experimental amateur-built airplane, and that means you can kind of have it any way you want, and you can maintain it any way you want by yourself. You remain the manufacturer of it, but you can do it any way you want. You cannot then use it for flight instruction. You can't rent it. You can't use it in any commercial environment. What National Geographic did was in Africa, where they don't have those kinds of rules, so they were able to do what they wanted there. But they were technically not using the aircraft for transport or cargo hauling. They were just doing photography from it. In this country, you couldn't do paid photography that way, but of course, you can do amateur photography. So lots of good things to say about AirCam. One last thing I want to mention here. You see down here this little bit of shaped strut. The entry technique, right foot on the strut, swing your left foot over into the floorboards, which you can put your weight on, and you support yourself with these very sturdy side struts here, and then ease yourself down in the cockpit. It's actually not too bad, either in front or rear, to get in. In the rear, the technique I've seen is to get up and put your rear end on the on this sill here, which is, by the way, about that wide, so it's quite comfortable to sit on. You can use the same technique up here as well. It's not a hard airplane to get in and out of, and in all of its ways of operation, this aircraft is really very straightforward. It's an easy flyer. It flies. It's not a particularly fast airplane, maximum speed, maybe about 100 miles an hour. But it's not intended to go very fast, although they've literally flown these things across the country. In fact, this one out here in Arizona is going back to Florida as well as another one. So AirCam from Lockwood Aircraft. It's lockwood.aero for their website, and you can find lots more about that. You can find all kinds of affordable aviation on buydanjohnson.com. Thanks for joining us out here at Copperstate in Casa Grande, Arizona.